What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box, and this is rFactor 2, where we're going to be driving the newly released 1999 Panoz AIV Roadster. A very strange looking car, a very strange addition to any racing game, although it does have a somewhat interesting and nostalgic inducing tie-in with the whole racing game, in the sense that this car was featured in the great Midtown Madness, which I spent a lot of time playing back in the day. And, well, yeah, I was actually kind of interested in this car because of that, as well as the fact that it's a Panoz, and I've always liked Panoz because, yeah, the cars are ugly, but they're so weird, and that makes them cool. So let's go ahead and celebrate by sacrificing some pixelated tires. An onboard brake bias adjustment not available. Just accidentally hit the wrong button there. But, yeah. Very strange addition to rFactor 2, but it is nice to have a road-going street car on street tires finally available, which is, well, I think, honestly, knowing how this car drives already, having done a bunch of laps around here at Putnam Park last night, just for the fun of it, I really think this is a car that is pretty much a shot across the bow for Kunos and Assetto Corsa. I think this is ISI saying, hey, yeah, look at what we can do. Yeah. This car is a bucket load of fun to drive. It grips, it drifts, it does precisely what you ask for. And hopefully we ask for it to stay on the track. Now, for you guys out there who know nothing about this car, which probably is a lot of you guys, because, well, it's not exactly the most famous car out there, that's for sure. It is an aluminum constructed Roadster. And this was actually the first production aluminum American-made vehicle. Yes, this is American-made. You probably know about the connection, I'm guessing, but Panoz, there's Don Panoz and Dan Panoz. Dan runs the car company, basically, but yeah, between them two, obviously, you have Panoz, the road cars, the race cars, that I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with, that they raced in the late 90s and early 2000s. Front engine prototypes, because they can, which is still the most awesome prototype in my opinion. The LMP1 Roadster. There's a car I want to see in a sim. That would be awesome. But as well as largely to blame for the ALMS series, and really bringing Road Atlanta as well as Sebring back up to the international level. So while you might not have heard of this car, there is some very big importance, you know, tied very closely to this car. So pretty interesting, though. This car being from the 90s is, well, very 90s. I don't say that because of the styling, which, you know, well, Panoz obviously is Panoz, and they don't build stuff that looks conventional, and never have, and probably never will. And that's awesome, because someone's got to do it, right? But this car is powered by a Ford Mustang Cobra sourced 4.6 liter V8, putting out 300 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque, which by modern standards isn't a lot. Pretty sure the V6 Mustang that they make now has similar power levels, but in a car that weighs 2,700 pounds, it's enough to keep it sufficiently motivated. And that power is sent through a 5-speed manual gearbox. Just did some research last night before recording this video, just to kind of brush up on the specification of this vehicle. Maximum power, 300 horsepower, comes at about 5,800 RPM, which, as you can see there on the dashboard, tachometer goes to about 6,700 before redline. Yeah, you don't want to go there. At that point, the engine kind of turns into a Ricer Honda Civic. A lot of noise, but not a lot of go. And we like a lot of go and a lot of noise. So it really does feel like you have to short shift this car, but really you're just using the power band of the engine. But perhaps most stunning that I found while reading up on this car was the skid pad number that was quoted in Car and Driver. 0.94 Gs, which nowadays that's not necessarily like, holy, that must be a misprint. But back in the 90s with 90s tires, wow, that's pretty impressive. You can definitely feel that this car has some handling prowess to it. Just a very enjoyable car to drive, especially on a track here like Putnam Park, which really fits this car perfectly. Although I would have liked to have had a Road Atlanta available for rFactor 2, but alas, it's not out there in sufficient quality, so we'll have to do. So let's start to drive more like a hooligan, because that's what we're all here for. It's just showing as a proof of concept that you can drive the car somewhat civilized and restrained. You don't have to kick the tail out, but you wanna. Sorry, I'm not Japanese. I'm not the best drifter in the world. But still, that was a massive slide. Massive. You do have to remember this car does only have 300 horsepower. So it's not just put your foot down all the way and instantly get a lot of wheel spin, but it's definitely enough to spin them up. There does seem to be an unfortunate bug within rFactor 2 and this car. Just don't see any tire smoke at all. So I'm pretty sure there should be tire smoke going on right now, and no tire smoke behind me, none in the mirror, so yeah. I literally drove this car last night for about 50 laps around here, just having a blast. I mean, it is so fun to drive ridiculously sideways just because you can. It's so fun to drive in a more civilized manner where you can feel the tires really working. And, you know, just, you know, all the grip and the lack of grip and, you know, everything. It has that feeling. Now, if only this thing had about an extra 100 horsepower, 100 pound-feet of torque, thereabouts. Oh, yes. Okay, there. I was just being greedy on that one. That was all me. But it really is, you know, pretty, actually, this might seem very strange to say, but if you've driven the Niels and someone NSX for rFactor 1, which if you have rFactor 1, I strongly suggest you do, because it's one of the best road cars available in rFactor 1, this kind of is very reminiscent of it, except for the fact that it's more willing to go sideways because you do have significantly more torque available. But, you know, it really is how you drive it is what you get out of it. Okay, let's just be a little bit more civilized here. You'll see. You know, it might not look like it, but the lap times are, you know, significantly faster when you drive what looks like significantly slower. Although the fun quotient is definitely not way off the charts, like when you're going like 90 degrees perpendicular to the direction of the track. But hey, you can't always be a hooligan. With this car came a new build update for rFactor 2, which, well, there's one thing on there that I consider of really noteworthy, noting-ish, sort of. That sentence made no sense, excuse me, but improved ambient shadows at long range. So I'll go ahead and throw a replay at the end of this video. So that way we can see, you know, are the shadows improved? Because that's one of the major things that sucks about rFactor 2 and its replays is the fact that often shadows just don't exist past a certain distance, and that certain distance is about 50 feet, it seems like. Even though it's not, but it's definitely very noticeable. So don't be put off by this car's strange looks. It is a blast to drive. Seriously, who doesn't like going sideways? Because if you don't like going sideways, you're lame. Trust me, I'm pretty lame, and even I don't like going sideways. It really is so difficult to put together one composed lap, not because it's hard to drive in a more composed manner, but because you just know how fun it is to be ridiculously sideways. It's just like, you know what? I want to go sideways now. Okay, that wasn't planned. That was driving error. But yeah, that pretty much is the story with this car. All day. All day. One thing's for sure, this would certainly be the world's strangest looking drift car, I'm pretty sure. Okay. We're gonna be composed here. We're driving in a civilized fashion and not like a complete hooligan. Easy. I really wanted to kick it out there. I'm not even lying. There's enough torque there in second gear that you really have to be careful not to light them up. But it really is a blast to drive. It really does, you know, make me excited for rFactor 2's future. You know, it's starting to come around. Like, this car just feels so very immersive. And, you know, unlike the Civic, I haven't done a barrel roll in it or anything like that. There's been nothing that says, what? Or nothing that leaves me saying, what? Or anything like that. I got in and drove, and it felt like a car, and it does car-like things, and if you treat it properly, it'll treat you properly. If you decide to go sideways, you'll go sideways. And you can go ridiculous sideways because it's on street tires and has torque. And yeah. Still would like more power, but you know what, it's sufficient. Really is well worth a try in this car at this track. Definitely a nice combination. So I'm going to do one more lap, and we're going to go sideways this lap. In theory, hopefully, maybe. Providing my talent is up to par. And then we'll cut to a replay, and that'll be that. Too early, too early. Turned in way too early there. You know, people might see this and think, oh, well, he's sliding her all over the place, so it must be like rFactor 2 and the ice feeling. No. And, of course, my talent has run out. So, I'm just going to cut to that replay rather than finish this lap because it's probably just going to be more spinning out and looking terrible. Yeah, so, bye. It's taken 2 years, but my goodness, the shadows stayed.